So, if you were able to watch any of the Microsoft Edge Summit videos, or were there in person like myself, you were able to hear about a new tool that the Edge team is releasing. And it's kind of a new version of an existing tool. They've had this site scanner tool for about 4 or 5 years now. I don't think a lot of people really realize it's there. And if you're familiar with Chrome's Lighthouse tool, this will look a little similar or familiar to you. But they released a new tool called Sonar. And this is a linting tool, which may not really resonate with everybody out there, but honestly what it is, this is a tool that you can use as part of your development cycle and your build and deployment cycle as well. And what it's going to do is it's going to analyze your site and find common errors in your site that you need to address so that your site can be the best technically it can be. Okay, and kind of the difference between the approach with Sonar and the approach that the Chrome Lighthouse team is taking. And I use this term lightly because this is kind of the messaging that the Edge team wants to relay, is that Sonar is less opinionated. And I've kind of teased out what does that really mean. Now the rules or the specs or features that Lighthouse is testing is really targeting a certain type of application that they want to see, I guess, and that's ideally a progressive web app, which, you know, I'm 100% for. But I do feel that there are aspects that are missing from Lighthouse that should be tested. And I'm not 100% sure that everything that they're testing is being tested the way I would want it to be tested, if that makes sense. So anyway, now Sonar is in that same vein. I think the difference from my perspective is that Sonar essentially is a framework that you can plug your test into, and it ships with some default test, and you've got the ability to configure what tests are run and how those tests are run. That way you can really craft your test suite, so to speak, or your battery of test so that you can get the best results. Now, this is still early on. In fact, I know for a fact the stuff that they showed at the Edge Summit a few weeks ago, the code that they demoed was literally done like the day before. This is not like a product, but it's a tool that they're releasing. And this is a really awesome tool, and I like the way it's organized. And it's a node module, which means it can run on any platform, pretty much anywhere. I think the one huge caveat you've got to have is you need to have what they call a connector, or really a tool to actually execute the test in. And before I get into connectors, formatters, and rules, let's just kind of go through how to install it. Now, if you're not familiar with doing a node module installation via npm, I do highly recommend you just go out there and learn that part of it first. But most of us are familiar with that, so I'm not going to bother going over that right now. You do need Node version 8, which is the latest stable version of Node. If you haven't updated yet, I do encourage you to go do that, because you should always, in my opinion, stay current with the tools and platforms and stuff that you are working with as much as possible. And so you should go out and do that upgrade. Now, to install Sonar, and it's sonarwall.com. And I heard a little bit about the name. I think they said 15 or 20 minutes coming up with a name for this, but they wanted something that kind of indicated reaching out and getting signals from things, and they thought sonar would be a good thing. Of course, sonar is kind of an overused term, and they were like, well, what's an animal that uses sonar? And they decided the narwhal was an animal that uses sonar, hence the logo of a narwhal. That's like a dolphin with a unicorn horn, whatever. Anyway, So install it, it's npm install. I do recommend what they're saying here, install it globally. So use the -G switch. And this is something new. I don't know what this engine strict is just yet. I'll have to look that up, but this is what they do recommend. And the sonar wall / sonar to get the, I guess, get the actual piece of the project that you need. Now, I had to rebuild my machine after I left Seattle from ground up, so it was all pretty clean. But I did get the heads up on this before it was released, and I was able to install it before I went out to Seattle. And I had some issues getting Python set up correctly. And I think I got it set up correctly this time. I'm not totally 100% sure, but I'm wondering if this engine's strict and maybe this project, they cleaned it up, because I did mention it to them that you had to make sure your Python was set up exactly correctly. And I don't want to go into setting up Python because I'm not totally sure what's going on with that anyway. But anyway, there evidently is a node module in the node dependency tree that somehow depends on Python being there. So once you do that, you'll have the package installed globally. Now, before you actually go run a test, you need to initialize Sonar, and to do that, you need to run sonar --init, and that will kick off Sonar, and it will create this Sonar RC file. That's essentially just going to be a JSON file that's going to define your kind of default settings for Sonar. So I'm going to bring up the command line here, and we'll just run sonar init, and it's going to ask what kind of connector do you want to use. Again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to stick with Chrome. And what formatter do you want to use? And this is how the report's going to be output to you. And you could look at code frame, JSON stylish, or summary. And I just did stylish, and I'm not totally sure I was happy with that one. So I'm going to try code frame this time. JSON's going to give out JSON. We'll look at this in a second. I'm just going to use the recommended rules. Here you could actually customize this. Maybe we'll do that in the next run. Okay. And then what browsers are you targeting? And there's a lot of options there with that. And you can see there's a link to the types of browsers. Again, I'm just going to take the default, which is N-1 basically. And honestly, for me, that's the correct one that I recommend doing as well. So I'm just going to take that. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is we actually got to tell Sonar to run against a site to actually get a report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it against love2dev, my site, and let the bleeding commence. And so you can see it's popping Chrome up here on the screen. It's actually controlling Chrome from behind the scenes. You can see all that stuff is scrolling there in the background. It's telling me there's 206 errors because it's actually testing every single file that's being requested and all this stuff. And right now I'm trying to get this some of the header stuff set up correctly, and this is where I think a lot of developers and DevOps people are really going to find a lot of opportunities with their sites, because there's all kinds of configuration things that really are best practices that most of us don't implement. And this is a big eye-opener to me, is all these headers. And for example, I'm running out of AWS CloudFront, and unfortunately it includes this server header in there. You cannot take it out. At least I have not figured out how to take it out yet. And that's not something that's really going to impede you so much, but what it is it's giving attackers more knowledge of the platform you have so that they have a little better direction on how to possibly attack you. And that's why that's a bad thing to have. So for me, mostly it looks like header stuff, which is fine for me. It's good, and that's they're really repeated it a lot. But this was a real eye opener to me, just to see all these types of headers, and because it's trying to get on every single file request that's being loaded into it, we're seeing a lot of duplicates here. So it's not really that bad. It's some one of those things. If I get it fixed for one file on my CDN, it's going to fix it for all of them. More or less. I could run a script. I probably have to set the headers and stuff like that for all the different files, but it's really just a matter of a script. So anyway, so that's just running SonarWall. And of course, you could, if you output it to JSON, I could then run it through like a formatting thing and maybe produce an HTML report. I'm looking at doing stuff like that in the near future. I got other things on my to-do list that are more higher priority right now. Now you can, I like this, you can define your own rules, and this is a very extensible thing. They're going to ship with a lot of rules, and you can fork the GitHub project. This is a completely open source, and it is part of the JavaScript Foundation, I believe. It's not technically owned by Microsoft, even though they are essentially funding and working on it, I think. It's a Apache 2 license. I'm not the person who knows the difference between licenses. Evidently, FreeBSD means that Facebook can take over your React sites, though, until they just change that license. But anyway, so you can fork it over here, and this is actually my fork that I made of Sonar Wall. So if I actually go back to the original, and I forked it because I wanted to be able to start playing with it, and so here's, when you fork it, you just get the same exact thing. It's just a new branch. So anyway, you can go get it. And so there are going to be a set of rules. And then, like it says, a rule is a test that your website needs to pass. And it's got a bunch of built-in ones, but you can really create your own. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing. I've got like a lot of stuff that is going to be opinionated for me that I want to run, and definitely won't be part of anything that I do a pull request for with the actual core project. But I'm definitely going to be using this. I've been looking at doing something very similar, and so this gives me the scaffolding or infrastructure to place all these rules in here. Anyway, you can go through and really tweak and customize all of this stuff, which is really super awesome. Now, connector, like it says right here, is the interface between the rules and the website you're testing. And honestly, what that really means is this is the browser or something. You saw the other option I had was JS DOM, and that means it's not going to run an instance of an actual browser. It's going to effectively run inside of a node module in a headless configuration, which may be what you need. But for me, I really want to have something that's going to drive a real browser. Now, you may be thinking this is funny that the Edge team is doing this, and we launched Chrome. That's the current browser that's available. And that's because they're working on connectors to some of the other ones. And right now, because of the way Edge is designed from an infrastructure point of view, they're just not capable of doing that without having to rewrite it in a few months, because changes will be coming down the pipe that are supposed to help to essentially do the web driver stuff a little differently, I think. So stay tuned for that. And I think they're also working on a Firefox interface as well. But again, this is like a really new project. They didn't get a chance to like tackle all these things all at once. They wanted to build the core infrastructure. And then the formatters, this is how the data is going to be presented out. So if we go back through, and let's do a init again, and we'll change this up. This time I'll do JS DOM, and let's do summary, because I think that'll do a little thing. I'm just going to, again, actually let's go down the path of not choosing the recommended. So here's all the stuff that we want to check. So personally, I do want, wow, this is so much stuff. All right, so let's just make sure we've got the manifest stuff. Let's just check for manifest, and I'll do that and that. Those are good ones to check. So we'll just keep this really short and simple. As you can see, there are a ton of little bitty individual rules. This is crazy. And yeah, again, I'm going to choose the default because I don't want to deal with that. Okay, so now we got to run the test again. So now we got the thing configured, and we'll run the test against the website. This time we probably won't come up with that many errors. There we go, one error. And let's see. I don't see the error. Oh, wait a minute, there it is. The manifest file extension, one error. Ah, because I call it manifest JSON, or do I call it web.manifest? I can't remember. So yeah, I probably need to work on that. So see, there's even one more thing that I should probably look at doing. And so this is really useful. I hope that this is going to encourage you to go try this out. Now, they are also working on a web interface where you can just drop your site in there. I don't know if they've got this public yet or not. They did allude to it in the thing, and I know they had a URL, but I don't think it was quite wired up the other day. But there should be a place where you could just go to a website, plug in your URL, and then you would actually get the report out. I got a feeling they're still working on some of the logistics around that right now. So visit sonarwhal.com, that's sonarwhal.com, and you can start playing with this, or just do the node npm install and start playing with it from the command line like I just showed you. Because right now that's where it's sitting right now, but you can put it into your build script, node scripts, whatever you want, and execute it as you need to. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I really am excited about this project, and hopefully I'm kind of targeting mid-November to Thanksgiving timeframe, actually doing some cool things with it based on my current to-do list. So if you got any questions about this, feel free to shoot a line of me. Definitely go over to the GitHub repository and talk to those guys directly. Probably would be a little more useful. And let's see, they do have the issues on here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. I never can find it when I look at this. But you can see they're pretty active on here, responding to issues. So that's pretty cool as well. And the guys are pretty awesome that are kind of behind this project, and some pretty smart guys. So hopefully you'll get involved and be able to use this tool and make the web a better place. All right, guys?